All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening or this afternoon or today, wherever it is that you're calling from, because we know we had different time zones that are represented here today. We're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, I'm going to ask everyone to please mute yourselves. I want to make sure that we keep the distractions to a minimum. I do love seeing videos of you guys there. So if you want to go ahead and show your your photo, that's fantastic. Let me go ahead and do this. We are scheduled to go 2 hours. We're not going to take 2 hours, folks. I promise that. But I do want to give you as much information as I can during this time. As I mentioned, I am recording this, so we will send out the recording to folks that were on the call, maybe even to folks that were registered and not on the call. Let's see what kind of mood I'm in as we go along. Just a quick introduction. I know some of you know me already, but we'll go ahead and just do this formally and see, exactly who the heck I am. I am a Florida licensed real estate broker associate for 11 years. My wife, Gabi, and I had our own brokerage, Xtreme International Realty. But a year ago in June, we made the decision to go ahead and merge with Lpt Realty. So now we're no longer brokers of record, but we are team leaders, a mega team. And our team is called Xtreme by Lpt Realty. Now that I mentioned Lpt, if you're with Lpt in the part of Lpt group, and this call is open to everyone, so everyone is welcome. But I would like for you in the chat to just go ahead and put Lpt so I know how many of my brothers and sisters are on the call here today. Some of you know me as the guy that owns the CDPE designation, the Certified Distressed Property Expert. So we've owned that for 4 years now. So I teach agents all the time how to work with pre-foreclosures and short sales. You may not have heard, but a couple of months ago, we acquired the Military Residential Specialist, which is MilRES. This is a course that teaches real estate agents how to engage and work properly with either active military, veterans, or retirees. So I'm really excited about bringing this course into the fold. And I'm going to be teaching that course starting with next month. Throughout my career, I've been teaching a long time. Easily, I've trained at least 25,000 agents on various topics. Sometimes I get pigeonholed and people say, well, you're the short sale dude. I go, well, yeah, that's kind of what I do. But there are a few other things besides that I teach on. So that's our CDPE and that's our MilRES. Toward the end of the session, if you like more information, we'll post it in the chat how you can find out more about these courses. So let me talk about my goals for today. So a few months ago, I was at an event that that LPT held in St. Petersburg, and it was called, I think, Full Throttle, and it's centered around the Grand Prix. And there was an amazing gentleman there speaking there, Jeff Glover, or Glover, whatever you want to do. And I was just so impressed with his listing presentation. He went through his listing presentation. I thought, you know what? There's so many different ways that you can go ahead and do a listing, but there was just something about his approach that was just so simple, so easy to follow, yet it made so much sense. And given the fact that he is just an amazing team leader and they do so much production, I go, you know what? I'm going to ask his permission to go ahead and maybe share some of this information with people as well. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I also, because the founder of our company is Robert Palmer, and I came across one of his old videos on how he would demonstrate and teach agents how to use the listing power pack. And I says, you know, what if I combined the two? What if I combined Jeff Glover's approach, my personality, my style, some of my experiences, along with Robert's approach to go ahead and share what it is that we can do to properly promote these listings? That might be a real fun class to teach. So I started teaching this live and in person. And then, of course, people would say, are you doing it by Zoom? Are you doing it by Zoom? And I really hesitated. For a long time, I didn't want to do it because so much of the presentation centered around holding and touching the full glossy marketing materials that we present to people. And I go, well, maybe it's just not going to have the same effect. Well, I figured, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So my goal today is just to share something with you. For some of you, you may say, hey, I know all this stuff already. Some of you may say, wow, there's some things here I never really thought about. Let me go ahead and implement this. I just want you to have an open mind. I mean, if you've been in the business for a while and you've taken listings for a while, maybe you're not open to any suggestions on how to do it differently. I guess if you take every single listing that you go on a presentation, you probably don't need this. But if you're not batting 1,000, maybe there's something in this presentation that you can use and it can help you going forward. I think this statement is the understatement of the year right now. I like the fact that we are getting more and more transparent as an industry, and we're no longer trying to blow smoke to people. We know that last year was not a good year, and I'm being very, very generous. It was actually one of the worst years that we've had in real estate, I think, since 1975, 1979. You guys can correct me. And then, we had a lot of hopes for 2025 that, things are going to be turning around, and we're not seeing that. In fact, we are probably on track to do as bad, if not worse, than we did the year before. And just to go ahead and put a stamp on this, when they went ahead and released information that 71% of realtors did not close a single transaction in 2024, well, that tells you exactly how difficult it is. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. There are some folks out there that are having amazing success. They had a wonderful 2024. I know that within the LPT system, this number is significantly lower, but I'm just taking things in general. Okay, I'm not going to cherry pick and everything else. I'm saying the industry is undergoing some challenges right now, and it's just kind of carried over into this year. And look, today is July 1st. Half the year's gone already. Where did it go? If you're like me, you're wondering what? So we started off with all these lofty goals on what we're going to do this year, and here we are halfway through it, and you may not be anywhere near on target for what you want to do. Well, we still got half a year left, and maybe some of the items we shared with you today you can implement right away, and you can help it turn things around. We are going through a chaotic period in our industry. Last year they introduced all of these new procedures and forms for how to handle compensation, what we're allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. And this has caused, a lack of a better term, it's caused a lot of chaos within the industry. I've seen agents struggling. I've seen agents leave because they're fed up. I don't want any more. It's just so complicated. I'm based in Florida, and our state association has released, form after form after form that many agents are struggling with. They're having a hard time keeping up with this. I get it. But I'm also been a believer that in this saying, and that is in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. As more agents leave the industry, and that's not what I want, but it does create opportunities for those that are evolving and those that are pivoting and doing things differently. Would you agree with this statement, that being a listing agent now is more important than ever before? Now, you may argue with this because you're saying, Tony, we're seeing such a shift in the market, and now it's becoming such a buyer's market. I don't know if being a listing agent is all that great right now, but you know what? Maybe I'm old school, but I do believe in that saying that you have to list to last. You absolutely have to list to last. And I always ask my agents in the presentation, I say, so why is being a listing agent such a great thing? And typically someone will raise their hand and says, well, because I have the potential of getting both sides. I go, yeah, that makes it interesting. You not only can get both sides, but the folks that are selling, you can help them buy another property or rent another property or refer them. So there's an opportunity to get 3 transactions out of this. So that's a good answer. But the one I'm always looking for and hoping I get is, well, listing agents aren't really concerned at all about getting compensated. Buyers agents are, given the new changes and everything else. Some buyers agents are like really struggling with, how am I going to get paid on this transaction? As the listing agent, that shouldn't even be a concern. So I think that go out there and get them. Now, I'm a believer in changing things up, because I don't believe it's our job to motivate homeowners to sell. So let's talk about this, because some people are preaching, just go out there and just do more of what you've been doing. Well, if it's not working, why are you doing more of it? So I've kind of split my mind up into 2 approaches. I think that farming is fantastic. Knocking on doors is awesome. Prospecting is unbelievable. But if you're just targeting everyone in general, you're going to come across a whole lot of people that are sitting on a 2.5%, 3% mortgage right now. And maybe they would sell if it wasn't for the fact that when they went to buy someplace else, they were looking at a 6.5 or 7% interest. So I look at farming as something that you do that if you're planting those seeds in 6 months, a year, you can see tremendous return. So keep doing it, right? Keep doing it because eventually the interest rates have to come down. And when they do, I think there's going to be a lot of pent up demand in our industry. And for those that have been out there getting the word out and promoting their services and emptying the box, as we like to say within LPT, I think you're going to see the benefit of it. In the meantime, to go ahead and let's go ahead and put some, food on the table right now. Let's get some closings. How about if we just start identifying motivated sellers, people that have maybe no choice but to sell, and not just that, but people that are realistic about valuation. I'm a big believer in specialization. I think specialization is the future of real estate. We have too many general practitioners. I think if you focus on the 3 Ds, right? Divorce, death, default, you have folks that have no choice but to sell, right? There's 3 million probate cases that are open every year. Are you getting your share? There's more and more foreclosures every single day. Are you getting your share of pre-foreclosures, right? And divorce, 50% of marriages end in divorce, and most of those involve selling property. So I kind of like, this is not the real meaning behind today's class, but I'm trying to encourage more and more agents to step outside the traditional approach and become more specialized. I recorded this video. I don't think it's game changing in any way, but here's what I was hearing from agents all the time. Agents within our team are taking listings, right? And they're crying. They're crying because the properties are not selling, and it's because the sellers are asking too much for the property. Now, we can debate all day long why take the listing if the folks are just asking for too much, but that's what real estate agents do. I think only a small percentage ever get to the point where they're able to say no. No, listen, if you can't list it for a realistic price, I'm not going to waste my time. Most agents are just going to I'll take it. But I kept hearing the following over and over again. My sellers keep telling me, I need to net a certain amount. And something was like, wait a minute, isn't anybody educating these sellers that that's not how it works? So I went ahead and recorded the following. I'll share it with you.
Tony Martinez here of Xtreme by Lpt Realty, and today's message is going out to home sellers who have a property on the market. And let's say you're not getting the number of showings that you were hoping, or you're not getting any offers, or the offers that you're getting are way below your asking price. Let me ask you a question. Your asking price, did you determine that based on comparable sales in your area, or is it based on what you want or need to net on the property sale? Because if it's based on the latter, if it's based on what you need or want, that's not really the market we're in anymore. Buyers are only willing to pay what they believe the property is worth, and also what the market dictates that the property should sell for. Here's an example. You work for someone, you hope to work for someone, and what do you think the employer is going to pay you? What you need or want to make, or what that employer is willing to pay you? And if you're a business owner yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, it's no longer 2021, 2022, getting way above asking price or even way above market price. It's just not happening anywhere near as much, or maybe even at all, in your market. It's time to get realistic. If you really want and need to sell, price it according to what the market dictates. That's all for today.
So I shared it, and a real estate agent from a competing company, a different company, she went ahead and said, hey, Tony, I shared it with my seller, and the seller called me back. Or what did they say? She goes, drop the price. So they needed to hear it from somebody else. And the analogy I try to use is, you know what? You don't get to price it at what you need to net. Okay, that's just not how it works. Yes, there are sellers that missed the boat. They missed the timing to go ahead and get whatever they wanted for the property. So now it's time for them to be more realistic. So maybe we'll post a link to that video. If you want to go ahead and share it with some people or whatever, or you do your version of it or whatever, have at it. But I think we need to go ahead and start getting to these folks and letting them know that it's time to get realistic. So let's talk about home selling and how it relates to real estate professionals. Are we still in a good position to go ahead and take as many listings as we can? Yes, and here's why. I'll share, every year NAR does a survey. They do a survey of profile home buyers and sellers. So I went ahead and invested a few bucks, got the profile for last year because I wanted to see what the trends were. And I was really actually very pleased to find out that, check this out, very top, 90% of sellers sold with the assistance of a real estate agent. That's actually up from 89%. You think that's worth knowing? Yeah. That means that the vast majority of sellers out there still value what we have to bring to the equation. And you know what? I think this is going to continue to go up because the market has shifted so much. It's becoming a buyer's market in many areas, or already is. And, just putting your home for sale or as a for sale by owner just doesn't do the trick anymore. Only 6% were FSBOs, which is an all-time low. So now is a great time to approach FSBOs because it's probably not going all that well for them. And it's a great time to be seeking listings. Now, this is even, I think, as cool or cooler. 81% of recent sellers that were contacted only one agent before finding the right agent to work with. So basically 81 of recent sellers contacted only one agent before finding the right agent they work with to sell their home. And that is consistent with the data from the year before. So think about this. How aggressive are you being with your marketing effort? Are you knocking on doors? Are you talking to folks? Are you getting the mailings out? Are you doing social media? Are you doing that kind of institutional marketing and advertising that is branding you and getting the name out? Because if you could be the first person that they reach out to, there's a very good chance that they're going to continue or work with you, period. So I thought that that's very encouraging. Okay. Now, what we find is very, very common is that they interview other agents. That's one of the things I love so much about working with folks that are in foreclosure. They seldom, if ever, interview multiple agents. In fact, what I teach is that you're interviewing them, not the other way around. So when you're up against other agents, do you request that you go first, last, in the middle, or does it even matter to you? I want to kind of open that up in the chat because it'll be great if we were a little interactive over here. So let me know, what do you normally do when you know that you're up against 2 or 3 other agents? What do you think? What position do you want to go? You want to go last? How many of you want to go last? Put last, put first, put doesn't matter to you. Okay, Rich says he wants to go first. Okay. Let's see. All right. Pam, first. Maybe last, a question. All right, Ariel, maybe. Yeah, could be. What else? Or is it just me talking to myself for 45 minutes to an hour? Which one is it? Okay, so for Jeanette, it doesn't matter to me. All right, doesn't matter. Okay, last. Okay, cool. So for many years, many years, basically my entire career, I wanted to be the one that goes last. I just figured, I didn't want that situation where I went in there, I did what I thought was an incredible job. And the folks say, well, you know what? We just want to think about it. We want to pray about it. We want to talk to other agents and everything else. And I says, you know what? And then I watched Jeff Glover do his thing. And he says, absolutely, positively, you want to go first. And what it really, really hit home with me is that if you're LPT, and you really are using our collateral, you are using our marketing tools, you absolutely positively want to go first because you're going to set the stage, a standard that is almost impossible for anybody that comes after you. And that is assuming you don't take the listing on the spot. The whole point of today is let's see what we can do maybe differently so we can take more listings on the spot as opposed to, well, I'll get back to you. But go first. All right. Now, I'm going to start sharing some stuff from Jeff. And if you haven't gone to gloveru.com, that's GLOVER, I believe I'll have the link in a second there. with the letter U, please do. You can subscribe to his daily messages, his daily emails. He has so much incredible content that he's given away. I think he's the #1 trainer in the industry right now, and more people are going to start to agree. But when you schedule the listing appointment, and his belief is that the listing appointment is actually the most important component in the process. How you go about handling taking that listing appointment and what you do right after can determine to a great extent how much success you're going to have. So schedule the appointment ideally 3 to 5 days out. Now, I know it doesn't apply in every case, but schedule it 3 to 5 days out. Unless the person is saying, listen, I need the list right now, come on over. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got to wait 3 to 5 days before I meet with you. No, forget that noise. You go right away. But push came to shove, well, most of the time, you can schedule it 3 to 5 days out. Why? Because you're going to implement the 5 touches. There's 5 touches for you to go ahead and do prior to an appointment. Now, what I found, and asking the agents that would attend this presentation live, how many of you are doing any of these things, one of these things, all of these things? It was almost zero. It was like, I took the appointment, I was there in a couple of days, I just went. I go, you didn't do anything in between? No, I just went. I went, all right. So let's talk about what Jeff teaches, and there's his domain name, Glover U. First is right after you set the appointment, send a text. Send a text saying how excited you are about meeting them, and check this out, and more importantly, going to work for them. It is imperative that you start setting the mood, the stage, that they are going to hire you by saying, I'm excited about meeting with you, but more importantly, about getting your home on the market and get it sold. Okay, so that's the first thing you do right after taking the appointment. Now, the next day, you call them with some pre-qualifying questions. Now you're saying, well, what's a pre-qualifying question? Well, how about, listen, are all the decision makers going to be at the meeting? How many mortgages did you say you had, or how much did you say you had on the property? Where did you say that you were moving to again? And when you go on Jeff's site, he has a complete list of great qualifying questions. Okay, something like, hey, listen, if when I go out there, if what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable, are you prepared to put me to work right away for you? These are qualifying questions that you can ask right out of the get-go. Now, here is what most agents don't do, and that is they don't send out a pre-listing or pre-appointment package. So what you need to do is make sure that this is delivered. It's not hand delivered by you. Get a teenager, get a service, send it, by FedEx, whatever, have someone else drop it off, but it should not be you. But what you do is the day before, when you're calling them, you say, hey, and also before I forget, tomorrow I'm going to have a package delivered to you. Can you please just take a few minutes to review the contents? Okay, you will. Fantastic. And I'm going to show you what should go into that packet in a second. I'm not going to leave you hanging. But what I have found is the vast majority of folks do not send out a pre-listing package. Now, let's find out what the audience says, okay? Anybody here? Oh, thank you, Kenneth. Thank you. You guys are being way too kind. How many of you are doing this now? How many of you are sending out a pre-listing, pre-appointment package? Okay, Ariel wants to. You can do it. I want to get a feel for it by email. Okay, yeah. So you're using electronic. That's good. But see, one thing you're missing about the electronic thing is there's no emotional attachment because there's nothing. You've been emailing. I like the hand delivery. Yes, they need something that they can hold and feel, especially when it's glossy, especially when it's in high quality printing material. All right. So next, maybe a day before the appointment or so, you go ahead and send a video. See, before it used to be send one more text with maybe another qualifying question, a confirmation. But you know what? We're missing out on the power of video, right? They haven't met you yet, right? They may not know what you look like. So let's just go ahead and just do a quick video. And what I have found is that the vast majority of agents just don't use the power of what they can do. And here's what I tell people: just hold the phone up and just do a quick little video about how excited you are to meet them and going to work for them. And by the way, do you this, do you that, with this? And he goes, I can never remember any of that stuff. I go, well, listen, just get a teleprompter app and upload the text into the teleprompter app, and you're just reading it off your phone. And it looks like you're just doing it naturally, but you're actually reading off the teleprompter. Okay. So Pam says, I want to get the pizza box type thing that may show you. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think most of the coaches out there believe in something that you should send ahead. And if you can get creative with it, why not? Even more chances that they're going to open it. Now, I think that when you use something gimmicky or creative, might be more geared towards someone that you don't have an appointment with, someone you're marketing to. I think that if you already have the appointment with them, you can just send it in a regular brown envelope with the contents inside, and you don't have to go crazy or spend a lot of money. Last but not least, the fifth touch is the day of the meeting. When you're about 60 minutes out, text them, hey, listen, I'm on my way, or listen, I'm heading out soon. I'm looking forward to meeting with you. And you're thinking, why do I need to do that? Well, the goal is that you're going to be doing quite a few of these per week, right? That's the goal. And if your goal is, hey, man, I can just get one listing presentation a week. Well, that's really not the key to this. You want to do more than that. And what's going to happen is the more people you have scheduled with, the more chances that they forget, the more chances that something came up, life got in the way. It wouldn't be great to know before you ever got in your car that they're not going to be there. So you're not wasting your time, and you can just go ahead and stay put, reschedule, and then just go ahead and pick up the phone and continue to go to work. So those are the 5 touches that Jeff recommends. What do you guys think? Is this something that you think you can implement? So you tell me, put in the chat. I'll do it. I think I can do it. Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yes. Now, here's the thing. I have had some of my agents go ahead and sit through the class, and they've done listing presentations afterward. And I asked them, did you send the pre-listing appointment or the pre-appointment package? No. It's really hard to break old habits, good and bad. It's really hard to break. And I think that that's the biggest struggle that I have as an instructor is I'm asking you to maybe do 180 degree. I'm asking you to pivot, to change the way you're doing things. And are you getting in your own way? So think about that. None of this is going to work unless you apply it. And because it is proven, none of this is speculative. None of this is theory. It works every single day. Maybe this is something that, whether it's ego or hesitancy or whatever it is, just let it go and embrace it, right? Now, what do you put in the package? Now, this is going to be kind of like a shameless plug for what we offer at LPT. If I'm preaching to the choir, that's fantastic. If you're not with LPT now, maybe you should be. That's another conversation for later. But here's why I'm sharing this, because I recently had the pleasure of speaking out of state to a group of LPT agents. There must have been like 40 or 50, 60 folks in there. And they have been in the system for a while. And what I found is overwhelmingly, the majority of the agents were not using any of the collateral that we have access to. And that's just like breaks my heart, because it really does give us an unfair advantage. So having access to them, why wouldn't you use it? So here's what I recommend that you include in this packet. Number 1 is the active marketing plan. Now, active marketing plan, for those of you with LPT, you're familiar with this, but this is this high gloss, multi-page, thick, stock booklet. And it's fantastic. This is personalized. It's got your photo. Yeah, you probably think, Tony, but I don't look like you, and you got a money maker as a face. I go, no, folks, I've been told that I have a face for radio. So you guys are probably going to look much better than I am here. And it's personalized with your information inside. And this is an amazing, amazing piece to include. Now, I know what one or two of you are going to say, Tony, I like to bring this to the presentation. So I use it, but I bring it with me. This is the problem I have with it. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong, but I want you to think about something. when you show up at the meeting with this amazing book, with all of this content and everything else, don't you run the risk that the person is going to say, wow, this is amazing, but this is a lot. Listen, we're going to need a day or two or longer to review all this. That's the kiss of death. You don't want that. If you mailed it to them or dropped it off to them, I should say, now they have a chance to review it ahead of time, which means that they can ask you questions. So this is personalized, this is everything else. And I think the going price on this for LPT folks, this is $10. Now, I have fun on my live classes because someone will say, $10? What if I don't get the listing? Well, okay, so then you just snatch it out of their hand and you walk away with it. That's what else you want me to tell you? I don't know, man. I might say, listen, folks, I'm going to need $10 from you. No, you're not going to do any of those things. There's a cost of doing business. Now, if $10 is going to break the bank, then there is a light version that you could get. I think it's half the price or less. There's a light version. I mean, not the same impact, but it's better than nothing. And that's something that you can do. Now, here's a problem that I have. Here's a concern that I have. You don't have any of these in stock. You don't have any of these in stock. You got a listing appointment. And as fantastic as the LPT printing department is, getting it to you the next day is not going to happen. It could be 3 or 4 days, but not the next day. So wouldn't it make sense, if you're serious about this, that you have stock on hand? You order several of these in advance, so you're just putting an envelope and sending it. You don't want to be scrambling for these. I have these in my office. I have them in a board. I can just go and go 1, 2, 3, put them in there, and I'm ready to go. Okay. So I think it creates an unfair advantage. Number two, another piece that we have to offer, 9 critical questions to ask before hiring a real estate agent. Think about that. Okay. You are actually setting it up so that every question they have, you're going to have an answer for, because of course you've read this, you've studied this, you know exactly what it is that they may ask, and you have the answers for. Now, here's a different approach, and my sponsor, kind of like my mentor, David Kurz, went ahead and shared this with me. He says, Tony, if I don't take the listing on the spot, I make sure that I instruct the sellers to use this when they're talking to the other agent that they're going to interview. So how cool is this? You don't take the listing on the spot, but the sellers are holding this up and they're asking the other agent, by the way, so what do you do to win the battle of the signs? And they're staring at you the entire time. So how many of you think that this is another great idea to go ahead and include in there? You got your active marketing plan. You got your 9 critical questions to ask. All right. You're probably into this for like what, like $15 or something like that. Now, marketing pieces. Do institutional. What I mean by institutional, not necessarily product, not listing specific. Now, there's different schools of thought. You may say, well, what I like to do is send samples of how I've marketed properties in the past. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'd like to use the presentation itself for that. What I want to share in the kit, the advanced kit that I'm sending, is how I present the brand. And what is the brand? Who is the brand? That would be you. So how are you marketing yourself? Now, yeah, of course, here is a sample of a marketing piece. So again, nothing wrong with including that, but here's what I want you to be concerned about. Make sure that anything that you send out that features a listing, a property, is relevant to whomever you're sending it to. Because a lot of times agents do not do that. Let's say, for example, you did this amazing listing of a condo high rise in Miami Beach, and you're sending this to a residential person. The person says, wow, looks like maybe this agent doesn't really sell our type of properties. So make sure it's relevant. If you're going to include anything that has to do with a property, make sure that property is very similar or a property that they can relate to. Now, in our case, for example, we invested a long time ago in a moving truck. And you know what? I'm gonna have to update that photo. So the moving truck has been a fantastic addition for us because it's a billboard that we drive around. We also, my wife has done an amazing job of promoting our business page on Google. So we have, I think, over 250 five-star reviews. And, you know, we actually have a brick and mortar location. So we like to show off the fact that, yeah, we have a real office that you can visit. So for us, this is a great piece or something that we go ahead and send out to them. So that's on the institutional side. Last but not least, send out some comps, because you don't want to go there and they're not already prepared for a reality check. So send out something very simple, just a one-pager from your MLS, KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart. 3 actives, maybe a couple of pendings, and anywhere from 3 to 5 solds. And you may want to put a notation by one of them or something, because what you want them to do is say, oh yeah, well, that's the Jones's house. What? This is how much it's sold for? We already want to get them thinking in terms of, I thought that we could get a lot more for our property. So those are just the 4 items. Those are 4 things that I recommend that you include in the pre-appointment or pre-listing package, and you go ahead and you send that out. Do you have any questions so far on what I've covered? You can type it into the chat area, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask. Don't be shy, no dumb questions. We want to create some interaction here. Okay. Let's take a look here. Now, because I'm old school, you know, I've been watching some TV, and I'm a baby boomer, and I guess that's a derogatory term now. If somebody goes, "You're a boomer," that's a bad thing. I'm kind of proud of the fact I've lasted this long. So I'm old school when it comes to dressing for success. And what I have seen, especially in Florida, like when I used to travel for the CDPE and teach all over the country, if I would go into like Chicago, one of these areas, I mean, the folks there were just so well dressed. The agents were so professional. Guys are wearing suits. And when I do this class live and in person, I'll wear a suit and I'll say, guys, do you know that I have found that a suit can be worn for occasions other than weddings and funerals? Just to kind of get a chuckle, but you've seen just how far in the other direction we've gone with folks just dressing down. And you know, I'm a firm believer you don't get a second chance at a good first impression. So I believe in dressing professionally. I believe in dressing appropriately. Okay, you probably know what I mean by that. Kind of read between the lines. If what you're wearing is going to be a distraction, and it's probably not going to help you during that presentation. If what you're wearing may cause one or the other to feel uncomfortable, resentful, jealous, it may not be in your best interest to do so. So I'm kind of on this crusade. Besides talking about specialization, I'm kind of like saying, can we kind of get back to dressing like we're professionals again? You know, because that hasn't gone out of style. In fact, it just needs more of it needs to be done. Now, I will mention a pet peeve. I will get some hate on this. I get it, but I've never shied away from saying what I feel. Ask anybody on my team and they'll tell you, I am not a fan of guys wearing a really nice suit with tennis shoes. That's where you lose me. I'm not a fan of that at all. I would be interested in getting your feedback. I know you see a lot of folks dressing that way. You see a lot of successful folks dressing that way, far more successful than me. But tennis shoes, I can understand wearing sneakers or tennis shoes that look like dress shoes because you want to be comfortable, but white tennis shoes with a really nice suit. No, I'm okay with the no socks, Lionel. I draw the line. I think I was not okay with no socks for a long time, but I'm okay with it now. So you can change with the times. I have. So again, folks, do what you want. We all have our own different interpretations of what's appropriate or what's not. I'm just having some fun with you. You know, do you. Now, how about this? Be on time. Now, you're probably wondering, Tony, is this presentation going to get any more basic? And I go, folks, you think I'm bringing this up because it never happens? You know, how many times have you been to a meeting of real estate professionals, and half the room, 2/3 of the room isn't even there at the time that you're supposed to start? Now, I may or may not be okay with being late to that situation, but being late to a presentation with a consumer? Inexcusable. Now, life can happen, things have happened. And of course, you know, all you could do is call the folks and say, look, it's an accident in front of me. I wasn't expecting that. But more often than not, it is controllable. It is something I just leave early enough. You know, the other day, my son and I were going to a class that I was teaching in Miami, and I left what I thought plenty early. Last thing I expected was the freeway to get as bad as it was. I arrived 5 minutes before I was scheduled to speak. Inexcusable for a speaker to arrive that close. And I was so upset with myself, but I only have myself to blame because I could have left even earlier. So if you're dealing with someone that's military, ex-military, and you show up late, what's the saying military folks have? If you're on time, you're late. So keep that in mind, because there are real estate agents that have a real problem with this. They're late to everything, and that's not in your best interest. Now, what do you do when you're sitting in your car? Now, I see people tell me, like my wife will say, I like to get there plenty early enough so I can drive the neighborhood just to get familiar with any landmarks or something that's there. That's fantastic. So whatever your ritual is, that works for me. What I want to talk about right now is what is running through your mind when you're sitting in the car. So does anybody want to share something like a routine or a ritual that you do when you're sitting in your car before you get out and before you knock on the door? I'm curious to see what it is that some of you do. Pray. Okay. So what are you praying for, Pam?
I just pray for the right words because sometimes I don't know the situation I'm going in, and sometimes I do know the situation and it's a difficult one, like a divorce or someone with cancer or something like that. I just pray for the right words. And, obviously we can't proselytize, but that, somehow Jesus comes out through me in the conversation, that I can be kind of a shining light, especially if it's a bad situation.
I like it. I love it. And, I kind of joke around it. Not that I want to make anything light of prayer. I'm a big believer in prayer. It's just that most agents would ask, I'm praying that I take the listing. And I'm going, okay, well, maybe we need to be more specific. Maybe we need to pray that we take a listing that can sell. Maybe we need to. So whatever it is that you do, I'm a big believer in visualizing your desired outcome. Like, for example, when I'm speaking, okay, and I got, whether it's 10 people in the room or 100 people in the room, that morning ritual for me in the shower, I get on my knees and pray. And what am I praying for? I'm praying for open hearts. I'm praying for open minds. I'm praying that the words flow, that the delivery is there. And I'm visualizing having a great time. I'm visualizing them laughing. I'm visualizing them learning. And I'm visualizing them enjoying the class. And I think that it works because if you ever done sports or you just like sports, you know that all of the top professionals, all the top athletes, the ones that want the ball for that last shot, okay, have visualized making that basket, sinking that putt 10,000 times in their mind before they ever do it. And I just wonder, what are you doing before that call? How about this? You're on the phone with your kids. I said, no, you can't go to that. No, don't ask me again. Hey, look, if I come home and the house is a mess, there's going to be blood. Yes, yours. Yeah. I mean, and you got to imagine what the things that people run through their mind. And I'm thinking, you only get one shot at this. You have got to clear your mind and just go in prepared. Okay. So I'm not trying to preach, but I just know a lot of agents are like, oh, I barely got there. You're just grabbing your stuff and you're running out the door and everything else. And that's not usually a way to set yourself up for success. I believe that you have to exude confidence. Now, can you be confident when you're new? Is that not imposter syndrome? I don't think so. Now, you know where I think imposter syndrome comes in? There's a lot of new agents that have never done a listing presentation in their lives. And you're thinking, this is going to be my first one. Well, maybe it's the first one with a live subject, but it shouldn't be the first time that you role play this out. And you know what? We need to bring role playing back. Role playing used to be an incredible, a very crucial part of our business. And agents just started saying, that's okay, I don't need it anymore. There's a reason why surgeons, when they're going through school, operate on cadavers. You know, there's a reason for that. Real estate agents, we don't do that. Real estate agents, we grab our stuff and we run in and we blow it. And I'm thinking, what if you just sat with an agent in your office on your team and you said, listen, let me practice with you. You tell me, don't be cruel, but just tell me, what do you think? How do you think I'm doing? And let's make our mistakes, right? Let's make our mistakes ahead of time. And so that we're not making it with the consumer. Hey, Louis, something's flashing in your video, and I might go into some kind of a fit, so I may have to turn off the video because I'm like, it's like disco lights or something like that.
Yes, I
Now,
apologize. I don't know what that is.
no worries, brother. No worries. This is how I want you walking into that presentation. Okay. And there's a meme about that, and the cat saying, it just came from the vet and I still got my blank. I'll let you fill in the blanks on that. But yeah, that is a confident walk. And you know what? You could always tell that someone is just scared to death just by the way they hold themselves, the body language that they have. You know, I'm not saying you go across the runway like a diva, but I think that there's a way to approach it where it's not, you got your head down, you're shaking, and you're dropping things along the way. Feel confident because you have practiced this and you're ready for the show. Now, at the door, what are you doing? And I started looking, I go, man, what could I share here that would make sense? And that here's your last chance to get your act together. And it reminded me of the scene from All That Jazz. So this is a movie from 1,000 years ago, All That Jazz, right? So you got this performer and he's going through this ritual before going through the performance that he is popping pills, taking Alka-Seltzer, putting drops in his eyes and everything else because, and then when he's ready, he goes, it's showtime, folks. And I started thinking, man, I wonder how many agents really do that just before they press the button, you know, or knock on the door. They just remind themselves that a presentation is a performance. You know, when I speak live and in person, I'm not necessarily an extrovert when it comes naturally, but I am adaptively a very high I because I know that I'm on. I'm there to edutain. So something just lights up and I'm ready to go, you know? So I think that you need to do the same thing. Now, you could do it overboard. I mean, there's a different approach to it's showtime. And just remember, more and more people have the Ring cameras. So if this is you going like this, it could hurt the presentation. So just remember, whatever it is you're adjusting or moving around on your body, doing whatever, they might be watching you in real time doing that. Just saying, okay? Now, any questions so far? Any comments so far about just that preparation, right? We took the appointment, we did the 5 touches prior to going out there. We're sitting in the car, we're visualizing the outcome, we're walking confidently to the door, we're checking ourselves before we wreck ourselves that I'm ready to go in, and now I'm ready to knock on the door and begin the presentation. Any questions or comments on that part?
Tony, I
Okay.
have a question.
Yeah.
What happened is only one party is at the actually meeting, like let's say the husband or the wife. Do you continue with the listing presentation or you reschedule?
Well, that's a good point. And one of those things, that's one of the pre-qualifying questions that you can and should ask, right? So think about this. When you're calling them 60 minutes out, you're not texting them, you're calling them 60 minutes out saying, hey, look, I'm just gonna let you know that I'm getting ready to go. Everything, I'm looking forward to blah, 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 blah. And by the way, you're both gonna be there, right? And if the person says, well, you know what? It just so happens my spouse was called away, but you can still come down. I go, yeah, I could, but you know what? Why don't I just reschedule? Because I just really feel that it's almost counterproductive to not have both decision makers there. Because ultimately it's going to be very difficult for you to go ahead and replicate everything I said. So we're just going to go ahead, and a lot of information is going to be left out. You know what? I have no problem rescheduling. When can both of you be there? Now, if you find out there on the spot, you're not going to turn around and pack your stuff up and go home. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through with the show. Okay, I'm going to go through with the show. Charles Rice, so you bring a completed contract with you. Well, yeah, I think that it depends on how old school you are. I think a lot of agents have already prepared their dot loop in advance and they have everything filled out but the price. They're going in ready to go. It's just the only thing that's missing is the price and the signatures. So the last thing you want is have someone that says, I want to do it. And you're like, okay, I'll be back. No, you're taking it right there on the spot. Okay. And if you got to do it old school, handwritten, I guess that works. But yeah, just be prepared to go ahead and have all the electronic part done. Can you imagine you're there to take the listing and you're saying, hold on, so how do I do this dot loop again? I have to create a loop and I have to find the right forms. No, you already have it done. You've already anticipated that they're going to sign. I mean, why wouldn't they? It's you, right? Now, so Jeff says that there's 3 things prior. There's scheduling the appointment. There's a pre-listing. There's the qualifying. So there's a pre-qualification, the scheduling the appointment, and the 5 touches. Those are the 3 steps he does prior to the appointment. Now I'm going to share the 17. All right. And I hope I do it justice. I think I'm able to go ahead and present in a way that Jeff would be proud. But again, I encourage you to go ahead and see the man for himself. You can look him up on YouTube and everything else. But he believes that from the minute you walk in, you set the tone. So what does that mean? While you're standing at the door, you talk about how excited you are, how happy you are to meet them, how excited you are about getting their home on the market, and most importantly, getting it sold. How often are these the first words out of your mouth? I know you're probably thinking, well, I first walk in, I say, what a beautiful home. Well, what if it's not? Okay, so we already started with a lie. So maybe the first thing that's out of your mouth is, hey, you know what? So pleased to meet you. I'm glad I'm here. I'm excited about going to work for you. But even more important than that, I'm excited about getting it sold. All right. So they're like, okay, then. All right. So what's next? Take a quick tour. So what you do is say, listen, folks, before we sit down, you mind if I just take a quick tour by myself? And the reason why I do that is I want to see if there's anything that stands out that might impact my opinion or my recommendation on the pricing. I just want to take a quick walk through. Don't worry, later on, we can take a more detailed tour and I'll take photos later on. And the reason why you say that is because they're wondering, well, don't you want to take pictures? Don't you want me to show you around? No, I don't really want to show around. See, I think that what tends to happen is when the typical real estate agent, when they do a listing presentation, they say, okay, I'm going to start at 6 p.m. and they keep it open. Like If I'm there 4 hours, I'm there 4 hours. I go, why would you need to be there 4 hours? Why would you need to be there 3? Why would you need to be there 2? Can't you get in and out of there in an hour if everything has been done properly? I think so. Of course, there are exceptions, but if you start off by them giving you the grand tour, they're going to be opening up linen closets and saying, and this is linen closet number 1 of 12. And you're going, oh, Lord, this is going to be painful. No, let me just take a quick tour, get a feel for the property, and then let's sit down. Don't worry, we'll come back later, take a more detailed tour, and I'll take some initial photos. Okay, because I'm a big believer that, you should probably get professional photography done. Have you seen some of the photos that people are taking, like when they're standing in the mirror or the bathroom is just insane? So spend a little money and do it right. Now, you sit down and ask about prior experience. Say, folks, let me ask you something. Is this the first time you ever sold a home? And they might say, no. We've done it several times. In fact, the last time we did it was when we moved from Ohio down to here. And ask them, go, and how was that experience? What, you have any positives from that experience? Because you're asking these questions because you're looking for hot buttons. If they go ahead and say, yeah, we had an experience before, the agent was terrible, never returned our calls, wasn't really proactive, we had to chase them down for everything. Okay, well, they're basically telling you what they don't want, right? But they may say, yeah, we had a very positive experience. The agent was wonderful. And unfortunately, they're in a different state because if they were here, I'd use them. So you're looking for anything that you might be able to use as a hot button to go ahead and help you further the case. Next, lower their guard. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, they've never met you before. They're probably thinking, oh, this real estate agent is here to take the listing. And they may have even had a conversation ahead of time. Couples will do that. They'll say, well, listen, we got to be on the same page. No matter how good this person is, no matter what they say, we're not going to sign anything at all. We're agreed. We're agreed. Okay. It's almost like, okay, shake. All right. So what if you did this? What if you said, hey, folks, before I get started, let me just say that by the end of our meeting, one of 3 things is going to happen. Number 1, you will have the opportunity to list your home with me because you feel comfortable and you feel confident that I can sell it for you. And I feel confident that I can meet your expectations. So that's option 1. Option 2, you may not feel comfortable. You don't feel that I can sell your home. And you don't list with me. And last but not least, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel that I can meet your expectations. And I decide not to take your listing. So it could be any one of these 3, and whichever one happens is all right with me. I just always like to put that out there so that we all are on the same page. More often than not, the person can go, okay, you almost feel like they're letting that breath out, like, yeah, okay, so if we're not happy with you, we don't have to list. No, if I'm not happy with you, I don't have to take your listing. But then again, we may find that we're both very happy with each other. And at that point, we can get the party started. All right. Number 5, okay, ask them, why are you selling? Where are you moving to? So let's say, so why are you folks selling? Well, our kids live in so-and-so state. We want to move closer to them so we can be near our grandkids. Really, how many grandkids do you have? Where is this? What is it you're most looking forward to doing once you're there with your grandkids all the time? And what you want to do is you want to get them excited about the move. You want to get them thinking about all of the positives associated with making this decision, because we all know all the negatives associated with moving a household, right? But we want to bring the positive to the forefront. So just take a few minutes to ask them, why are you doing this? Find out their why. Next, transition to talking about the timeline. Have a discussion about what it normally will take. And here's why. There might be someone there that is under the impression they love everything you have to say. And then their only hesitation is, but if we list today, we have to be ready to move in a couple of weeks. Remember, these folks don't do this for a living. So by you saying, you know what I always like to do, I always like to, based on on current market circumstances and situations, I like to go ahead and share a timeline for what typically happens. If we were, say, get started today, how long can we expect the property to be on the market? How long does the escrow process, the closing process takes? And when can you look at being ready to move? And you know that that's probably anywhere from 60 to 90 days. And what it'll typically do is that'll put them at ease. They'll be thinking, oh, okay, because I thought we would have to be like out of here in 30 days. And that puts them at ease. Again, you're removing a potential objection. Before it even becomes an objection, you are just putting that aside. Make sure you're in the right house. Now, Jeff will chuckle at this and he says, yeah, when you're doing several presentations a week, imagine if you're doing multiple presentations in a day. Is it possible that you can mix up your paperwork? Yeah. It can get really embarrassing when you're talking about all the features of someone else's home and not theirs. So just verify that you are there by just mentioning. So let's make sure we're talking about you have 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths, and you have a deck and you have all this stuff like that. Yep. Okay, fantastic. Now, this stage 8 will set you up for point number 9. Set the stage for a pricing discussion. You might go ahead and take out the same sheet that you included in the packet that you sent out and said, you know, in the packet that I sent out, I included this sheet here where I was sharing the properties that are active. Now, here's the way I look at actives are your competition. This is who you would be in competition with. Okay. A couple of pendings. These are what folks are buying. These are what folks are buying. Okay. And the solds, keep it to no more than 5, 3, 4, no more than 5. This is what the market is saying you need to price your home at for you to be create a value proposition for them. So just ask them if they've looked at it. Go ahead and have the sheet in there. And then let's transition to actually having the CMA presentation. Now, my concern is that this is where a lot of agents will lose their sellers by overwhelming them with too much information. A good friend of mine always says that a confused mind says no. If you go there with this amazing presentation, 75 slides, a huge thing, and you start going through it, you're going to lose that listing. Most of the top producing agents in the country take one sheet of paper, right? Here's what's on the market. Here's your competition. Here's what it's sold for. And now, if I wanted to go a step further, now Jeff doesn't teach this, doesn't mean that you can't do it. I would also include a couple of expireds, because I would go ahead and say, here's why did these properties expire? Because of price, right? And you want to set the stage and say, listen, the ones that sold are the ones that priced right, the ones that entered the market at too high a price that didn't even sell. These folks were not realistic. They weren't thinking in terms of 2025. They still thought that we're during COVID 2020, 2021, 22. All right. So keep the conversation simple and then gradually ask them, okay, what it is that they think that they should list their property for. So I'm saying, okay, this is what's been selling, but folks, I'm sure that you probably had a price in mind already. Okay, so share that with me. How much would you say? Well, how much do you believe that your property will sell for? And often they'll say, well, we're really counting on you to tell us. That's a good thing. When they go ahead and say, well, It's not what we do. It's when they come they come at you and they say, well, we think that it should be 600,000, and 495 is the most that they're going to get for the property. So in this scenario, you might start it off by saying, well, okay, I think the price that I believe will create the most value in the minds of today's buyers is blank, this number, and give them your number. This is what I'm recommending. This is what I'm suggesting that you put it on the market for, to create maximum value for buyers that have more options now than they've had in the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. Now, this is where you pause, because they are going to look at each other and shake their head, or you're going to see that look in their eye that says, whoa, that's way below what we were anticipating. Oh, so you did have a price in mind. Okay, so what is that price? Okay, so you're thinking it's $495. They're thinking $550, $560. And now is the time to go ahead and have this discussion, have it out. Go ahead and once again revisit and say, so folks, let me ask you something. That number came from somewhere. Where did it come from? And you may hear them say, well, we need to net this much in order to go to the next stage. And says, okay, so you're saying you need to net this much. I go, folks, let me put it to you this way. And I want to be respectful. Okay. But do you work for someone right now? Yeah. Okay. Are they paying you what you need to make, or what they were willing to pay you for the job that you're doing? Oh, you're a business owner. Okay, well, so am I. If you were to hire somebody right now, would you hire them and pay them based on what they need to make, what they need to net, or what you're willing to pay, what the position dictates? See, it's no longer 2020, 2021, where we can just throw any number we want up against the wall and it would probably stick. You probably have heard stories, you probably have heard tales about people paying tens of thousands of dollars over, not just asking price, but appraised price and everything. That is no longer the market that we're in right now. So you mentioned 4, 550. I'm mentioning it should be more closer to just under 5. Why don't we find a happy medium? I think it's important before we move forward that we find a happy medium. We need to be in the ballpark at least, because 50,000, you're not even remotely in the ballpark. We got to get them to there. So Ariel says, no, I never heard anybody suggest to mention expireds. Well, that's the real world. It's the real world, because they're going to say, well, that's the price we were hoping to get. Well, it didn't work for them. And if you look at the features of that home, how does that compare with yours? It may be a house that's even more attractive, more value to it. And that's not even, they weren't even going to get that price. So this is a thing. Do not move forward until you have an agreement on the exact price or within a reasonable ballpark. Now, let's say he says, well, listen, can we just put that aside? And can you go ahead and share with us what is it that you would do to sell our home? I think that's where you need to stick to your guns. You need to hold your ground and say, well, you know what? I could, but I think it would be counterproductive, because if we can't even agree on what to list it for, it doesn't matter how incredible my marketing pieces are. I can't net for you any more money than the market is willing to pay. So I think we need to come to some type of a agreement here, and maybe as an initial introductory price with a plan to move forward after that. And then we can go into all that. Okay. Now, always close after you address an objection. So you say, so does that sound right? So maybe we can reach a happy medium, 530, 525. Yeah. Hey, listen, do you feel that I can sell your home? Are you ready to put me to work for you? Because that would be a really great time to find out if they're like, yeah, they are. Great. Well, listen, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get the paperwork started. And then once it's done, then I'm going to go up. I'm going to put on a little show for you at all the incredible ways that I'm going to go ahead and promote your property. But I'm not going to say, okay, folks, hold that thought. Let me go into this presentation now and then come back and we'll do paperwork later. No, 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 no. We're going to do it right then and there. Okay. Now, if you are pricing it higher than you want, I get it. We all want to take that listing. But I can tell you right now, we have a number of properties listed with my team that are never going to sell at the price that is listed for. And the sellers are being completely unreasonable and they're not willing to come down. Why did my team member ever take that listing to begin with? So this is a business decision that you all have to make. Now, or you took it higher than you should with one big condition, one big caveat, that we're going to meet again after 14 days. Go ahead and say, are you familiar with the term rotting fruit, spoiled fruit? And they go, yeah, it's been on the shelf too long. Exactly. The same thing happens with properties. What we have found is if in the first 14 days, or maybe it's the first 30 days, you're not getting anywhere near the activity, you're not getting the showings, you're not getting the offer, we're not under contract, then it's absolutely positively the price. So why don't we do this? We don't want to get to the point that we're dealing with spoiled or rotten fruit. So we're going to go ahead and implement our marketing. We're going to see how the first 14 days go. But if we're not under contract by that time, or we're headed in that direction, we're going to meet again. We'll schedule that date now. We're going to meet again. Hopefully we won't have to. We'll meet again. And at that point, we'll reevaluate the pricing strategy. And maybe at that point, we just reintroduce the property to the market. Okay. Are these scripts available? I would say yes and no, because what you're hearing right now is a combination of Jeff Glover and me. Because what I don't think there's any new scripts in real estate. I don't think there's anything new in real estate. I think everything is just kind of like repackaged. And that's why you start with a script and then you make it yours. You turn it into a dialogue because it becomes your phrases, your tonality, your inflection, your body language, and everything else. So you will get the recording of this and watch Jeff and then say, I think Jeff does it better, you know, and you can go ahead and learn it from there. So I'm taking what he does and I'm kind of throwing my own spin on it there as well. Now, we're going to get to the fun part now. We're going to get to the part where you go ahead and you talk about the property promotion. Okay. Now, Jeff actually at this point will do the institutional advertising. Here's where he goes ahead and talks about how he promotes his brand. And I said, no, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me because as LPT, we have an unfair advantage. We're bringing a kit. We're bringing a white box to the presentation that the others aren't. So that is our secret weapon. So I believe in sending the institutional samples as part of the pre-appointment, pre-listing, and then I come out with guns blazing with what we bring to the table, which is our listing power hack. And this is the part where I was telling you earlier, it may not have anywhere near the same effect because I'm not physically holding it in front of you and saying, touch this, feel this, and everything else. So you're going to have to kind of visualize that with me, because when I do it live and in person, I really count on the oohs and ahs of people saying, wow, this is nice, this is incredible. But that's usually the reaction you're going to get from the folks. Cheryl, that is so nice of you to write that. Thank you so very much. So here's what we're going to do. Here's where now I'm borrowing from the Robert Palmer presentation, okay? And the link is available. I don't know if I shared that earlier with Jeanette or not, but if not, I can make sure you guys get it. This is an old recording of Robert. This is before he launched LPT Realty, and he was doing the LPT listing power packs, and how he recommends that you present it to the folks. And then I looked at it, and you know, one of the things I do I play it over and over and over and over again. And I said, man, I like the way he said that. And then I'll say, well, you know what? I like the way he said that, but I think if I say it this way, it might have a different purport. And that's the beauty of someone giving you something other than a blank sheet of paper, is that you can make it your own. Okay. So for those of you that you guys are already with LPT, you know that we have the famous white box. Okay. And you carry that with you everywhere. Now, I'm a little different. You know, I like to be a little different. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's different. But the white box can get dirty. The stuff can start falling out. It can start breaking apart. And after a while, it's not really pleasing, aesthetically pleasing to walk in with that. So I figured, and I borrowed an idea for someone. I said, it's got to be a nice case that I could use. And I just started looking everywhere. I looked on Temu and I ordered one. I think it came in and I think they were this big. I go, maybe I should check the size next time. And, you know, so then I started looking and I said, so I found this one on Amazon. And, you know, what I'll do is in the follow-up email that I'll send to you all, I'll include the Amazon link for it if you're interested. And and then I got a sticker made. There's a number of different places you can just get a sticker made. But this particular case, this is how I like to walk into the presentation, because it looks great. People are going to say, what is that case? And then the way I have it, when you position it, you open it, and then it blows them away. And I don't want to struggle with having to remove them from the box and maybe it's stuck and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, here's what I did. This case has foam already on the top and bottom, but I bought an extra packet of foam, and it came with more than I needed. I took two, and it comes, I think, with 4. Now, the reason I got the extra foam, I didn't want the pieces to move around. Okay. You know, at first I was going to sit there and kind of draw it out and cut all the way around and everything. I says, forget that. I'll never get done with this. So I just said, I don't need to do it. I just don't want them shaking around. And when I open it, it looks like some kid's room, you know, with their toys. So I'll include the Amazon information for that additional foam as well. I also will tell you this, our sign writer in its normal size will not fit. It will not fit. So what I did, remember, this is just my sample pack. All right. I went ahead and just used a paper trimmer and just cut on both sides. So now it could fit just fine. And the lid closes. So do what you want. But for me, this works. And more people say, give me that link. I want to go ahead and order mine. Okay. So now here's what we're going to do. The way Robert would begin this presentation is basically I say, look, as your real estate professional, as your real estate professional, my job is to create as much excitement and interest for your listing as possible so that we can get it sold for as much as we can, as quickly as we can. First, let's talk about what the industry typically does to get a property sold. I call it the big 3. So what is the big 3? And here's what I did. When you look at if you're looking at the presentation from when Robert recorded it several years ago, the numbers have changed. And these numbers actually reflect the 2024 numbers that I actually gleaned from that survey of home buyers and sellers. Like, for example, when Robert talks about how, you know, what causes properties to sell, back then, the yard sign was responsible for 9%. Right now, it's responsible for 4%. So, and Robert's number back then, I think, was 86. Now it's 84%. So I say the big 3 is, let's start with the for sale sign. Okay, you know, believe it or not, for sale signs absolutely positively still work. Okay, and that typically accounts for about 4% of how someone finds the home that they're looking for. The second part of 2 out of 3 is other realtors. So, you know, one of the things that all realtors do is we put your property in the multiple listing service. And at that point, the entire membership has access to it. You know, one of the things I include, because I am part of the Miami Association, and say, you know, when we put it in the MLS, We just happen to be the largest board in the country, and I think we have about 60,000 members. So the minute I put it in there, you essentially have about 60,000 hungry realtors that are going to go to work for you right alongside me. Okay. And if you have a large team or you have a very active team, you say, in addition to putting in the MLS, of course, it's shared with everyone on my team so that we can get the word out right away. So that number represents 29%. Then the last group is real estate websites. We know that they've grown in popularity. Everybody's heard of Zillow. Some people have heard of Realtor.com, but we know that through the syndication that MLSs do, the relationships that all these MLSs have, the property is syndicated to dozens, if not hundreds of websites across the world. So this is the big three. This is what every agent does. No agent is, more special than the other in getting this out. So this is just me talking to you. I wouldn't denigrate that. I would say this is what the typical real estate professional would be focusing on if they would be sitting across the table from you right now. But I'm going to go a step further. Let's talk about the law of supply and demand. We've all heard that, right? You don't have to even take economics to know that, the more people want something, the more value it's going to be. All right. And even though we've been seeing a shift in the market and I have zero control over the supply, the inventory, what I can potentially impact is the demand. Because when you total up everything that I've shown you so far, it came out to 84%. I'm not a math whiz, but 16% is missing. So what is that missing 16%? How do we tap into it? What is it that we do? So this is where I come in. This is where my marketing plan comes in so that we can increase the demand for your property so that we can go ahead and tap into that missing 16%. Make sense? I go, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you the 3 keys to increasing demand. Okay. The first is exposure. Okay. Now, when I mentioned that we put it in the MLS, who's going to see that? That's going to be someone that's on Zillow. Why are they on Zillow? Because they're probably wanting or thinking about buying a home in the very near future. But what about people that haven't started looking yet? The MLS isn't really going to be effective in that area, right? What about someone that got discouraged, that got beat out on some offers, and they've left the market? Well, again, those people aren't going to the realtors or the real estate websites. And people that know people that are looking, also often people are not leveraging relationships. So what we want to do is we want to tackle all 3 by increasing the exposure that your property gets. And I'm going to show you exactly how to go ahead and do that. Next is repetition. And why is this so important? Because we live in a very complicated society. We have more distractions now than ever before. We have more ways that people can reach us. Somebody may have every intention of calling you or calling the number on your sign. And next thing you know, somebody cuts them off and they're like, road rage, and they completely forget about you. Well, what we need to do is find ways that the consumer can come across your property more than once. Because the more they see your property, the more they become familiar with your home. They recognize the property. Say, I've seen that property before. It creates a connection. Speaking of connection, we need to go ahead and create an emotional connection with your property. Now, we know it's a big financial decision. Everybody knows that. But all too often, real estate agents or sellers forget that at the end of the day, it's that emotional attachment. If this one spouse says, this is a house for me, the numbers guy in the relationship is probably not going to win out. It's going to be, okay, honey, yeah, okay, this is the home for you. So we need to tap into all 3: exposure, we need repetition, and we need an emotional connection. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by supercharging, use that term, supercharging the yard sign by incorporating the power of digital marketing. That sounds pretty good, but what the heck does it mean? Well, we're going to use the latest in text response capture, right? We're going to talk about some stats in a second about how often text is being used, but let's just say that It's almost ubiquitous. Everyone is texting all the time. Now, so the sign is going to have the ability for someone to call or text for more information on the property while they're parked in front of your home. Next, we're going to create an emotional connection by featuring photos, 3 photos of your property. Okay, that is one of the biggest complaints and biggest wants that people have is we want to see more photos. The typical for sale sign or the typical rider does not feature any photos of the property at all, and they're missing a major opportunity there. Okay, next, we want to make sure that we drive that interested party toward a dedicated property website and just let them know that they can go ahead and get information. They're going to be sent a link to your private website for the property. They can go ahead and reach you by phone. You can respond immediately. All these things can happen because you supercharge their for sale sign. Now, at this point, you should be holding our sign writer. And at that point, say, listen, take a look at this. This is pretty cool. And let them kind of look at it and say, wow, okay, so yeah, so this would be photos of our home? Absolutely, yeah. How soon can you get this started? Well, all right, so it's Tuesday. I think by Friday, if we get started today, I think I can have everything here by Thursday, maybe Friday at the latest. Well, yeah, that sounds great. You guys feel me? Okay, now, how important is texting? Well, 90% of Americans text at least once daily. So it is by far the most used mobile app, the most used activity. Okay, 31% of American adults prefer receiving text to phone calls. Now, this number factors in all adults. The younger they are, the less likely they want a phone call, the less likely they want to engage in a conversation. They just want information quickly. Now, I'm a boomer, but I'm the kind of person that I don't like the fact that people still call me. See, when you call me, you're assuming I'm in a position to take your call. I tell people, look, 9 out of 10 times I'm either teaching or I'm going ahead and doing a Zoom or I'm working on a project where I'm not going to be interrupted. So why are you calling me? Why don't you text me or WhatsApp me so that you can go ahead and just ask the question you have? Chances are it's a yes or no answer. So I've had to kind of retrain folks to not reach for the phone to call me. Now, it's different. I'm talking about my team members versus consumers. But of course, if I'm using a phone number, a dedicated phone number, it's going to identify that this is a consumer calling. I'm going to pick up the phone. But I want to be accessible by text. Now, I'm going to give you a tip that maybe somebody else wouldn't, but I found that most Americans do not use WhatsApp. Not enough folks use WhatsApp. Okay, Pam, you're shaking your head like you don't use WhatsApp. You need to use WhatsApp. Okay, WhatsApp is an amazing device for communication. It is superior to texting in so many ways. And here's the thing. If you at all want to market to people from South America, Central America, you need to have WhatsApp. Okay, no, I know that scammers weigh that, but apart from that usage, my agents have received texts a million times. Almost once a month, someone will post in our group, hey, did you or Gabi send out this text where it says, hey, listen, do me a favor. Can you meet me and can you go buy a gift certificate and meet me somewhere? And that's through text. You know what I love about WhatsApp? It's got a broader audience because Latin Americans use WhatsApp. Secondly, for photos, it's better. For sending a recording, better. And it's encrypted where text typically is not. You do you. But to me, I want to be as accessible as I can. I prefer WhatsApp all day long as opposed to regular texting. Now, the photos are a huge, huge advantage because that's that emotional component. Anything that has photos on it typically has a higher response rate. Isn't that what you want? It has more views. Now, when it comes to social media, photos have been replaced by video. If you want more exposure on social media, use fewer photos and more videos. But in this kind of scenario, the photos do an amazing job. More buyers than ever want to see interior photos. So you can feature those on it, okay? Now, what is a dedicated property website? Well, this is something that as LPT agents, we don't even have to think about. This is something the minute that we enter the listing into LPT Connect, this is going to be created as a result of this. Now, the dedicated website is exactly that. It is only for that listing. It is not to promote your brand. It is not to promote your services. It's to promote that listing. Now, the key to any website is uptime, okay? And Robert Palmer has spared no expense to make sure that we have a 100% guaranteed uptime. It has to be mobile friendly. No third-party advertising. The minute the folks go to Zillow or one of these other sites, they're going to be exposed to other listings or other agents. So you don't want competing listings on there. You only want your listing. You want the information to be as accurate as possible. And you don't want them to go ahead and get a Zestimate by going on there and coming up with this crazy price that Zillow is saying that this property should go for. So this is one of the biggest selling tools, is knowing that almost instantly you're going to have a website created. And it's so important that you share that link with your sellers as part of your communication after taking the listing. Send them a link to that, okay? Let me see. And the pictures in WhatsApp works good for Android to both ways. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the quality of the photos, absolutely true. So the dedicated website, absolutely. And you know what? Again, if you're with LPT and this is all new to you, just keep that to yourself. Nobody needs to know that. Just go ahead and say, yeah, I've known about this all along. But this might actually be new information for a lot of you. Now, let's transition to print advertising. And I call this the power of print advertising. Now, most people will tell you that print advertising is dead. No. Robert Palmer, because he is a genius in so many aspects, understands that print advertising still can play a major role in the marketing of real estate if done properly, if done with quality. So what is this? What is this here? This is actually a report that was put out by Temple University Fox Center for Neural Decision Making. And it says here, people view physical advertising longer than digital advertising. You're absolutely right. We're scrolling through stuff all the time. We're looking at it for not even a half a second. Where when you are holding a quality, glossy, full color marketing piece, it feels good to the touch. You're probably going to hold on to this long. In fact, you have a harder time throwing away something of this caliber. You'll find a way to hold on to it as opposed to something black and white or on cheap paper. People remember physical advertising for a longer time and recall details more quickly and more confidently than digital advertising. Would you agree? Physical advertising produces a stronger emotional response. Oh, that smells good. Triggering activity in the brain that is responsible for value and desirability, which is what we want, right? Don't we want the people to see value in that property and make the property as desirable? So it goes ahead and signals a greater intent to purchase. So it's scientific, folks. It's not just me saying this, it's scientific. Print advertising works. Now, here's where our special box comes in. So this is the way it comes in. And for those of you that don't know, every single time you take a listing, okay, as an LPT agent, this box with 188 full color glossy marketing pieces is created for you and shipped out for you. And the only thing you pay for is shipping. Where I'm at, we normally pay about $17. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for this, we don't pay anything at all except for the shipping. And it includes all of the items that you see here. So what you do is you break it down for the consumer and says, let's start with our large flyer, or what I like to call our leave behind flyer. And this is essentially an oversized postcard, right? These are fantastic for open houses. I've seen agents hold open house and they got a really crappy printout of the MLS on there. They don't even do it in color. And they're handing this to the person, expecting what from them? Okay, so this becomes a perfect piece to hand to someone in an open house scenario. Now, some agents will say, well, you know what? I don't wait to an open house. I leave it on the counter so another agent coming by with their buyer can take it. That's your call. That is absolutely your call. But because of the quality of it, because the way it stands out, it elicits an emotional response, people tend to hold on to it longer. So you get a lot of repetition value out of it. So this is a full size 8.5 by 11. And all of these pieces, they feature 3 photos of the property, right? Because you uploaded these photos into the system. Then we have what is called the small flyer, or the 5x7. Kind of looks like a postcard, but it's not intended to be mailed out. This is something to hand out. What is the best way to use this? I think the best way to use this is to incorporate their participation in it. It says, listen, what we're going to do is when I get these in, we're going to split the quantity up, right? And I'm going to go ahead and post this in some public locations. Let's say it's a condo and there's a community board or an association that has a community center and a community board. You're going to go ahead and put it on there. Now, if these folks are still working, or they have a business, or they go to the gym, or they go to some place, then encourage them to go ahead and pin these up, post these up in those areas, as a way for someone to go ahead and see it, pick it up, and walk away with it. So don't just point it out, hold it up, give them instruction how you plan to implement it, suggestions for how they can implement it, and then let them touchy feel it to go along, right? Next are the actual postcards. Now, this is not intended for a mass mailing. This is intended more for, how about this? You say, folks, I have a number of people in my database that may be interested in your home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand address this postcard and send it out to them. Okay. So I want to create that emotion of them going to the mailbox and seeing this property. So you want to tout the fact that you are still willing to go that extra mile. You're willing to do what other agents won't. You have these incredible postcards, and you're going to go ahead and address them and send it out to people in your database that may be interested or may know someone that is interested in buying a home in your wonderful neighborhood. Next, business cards. You're going to get 2 different types, right? You're going to get the very nice tent cards. Now, the tent cards, I love it because they're bifold and they stand up. I can just see myself being at a coffee shop, right? I can be at a coffee shop and I have the bifold one just right there on the counter, or the table that I'm sitting at, just right there. Maybe a little sign that says real estate, take one. You know, I want to create that so you can have fun with it. You could say, folks, you know what? For the next week or so, this is going to be my official business card, because it's going to have my contact information on one side and your home information on the other. Why wouldn't they pass out this business card when it's got their home on it? You know that they're going to do it. So it's probably one of the easiest items for you to put out there is the business card there. So that's the business card that you use when you're holding an open house. That's the business card that you use when you're showing that property. Okay. And you know what? If you aren't going to be at the showing and they're going to be, because you know how some sellers, they have to be at every showing. You say, hey, go ahead and hand out one of these marketing pieces to them. Thank you cards. We don't do enough of this. When was the last time you ever received a handwritten thank you card? And when you did, what did you do with it? You probably kept it. You probably put it up. You saved it, right? Because it's so unusual for someone to take the time to do that. Thank you for what? For showing my home, by showing my listing. Thank you for what? For visiting my open house. Okay, do that extra step to follow up with people that have seen the property, to maintain that repetition and create more exposure and possibly more emotional attachment to the property by going the extra mile. Then you got the door hangers, which are fantastic to let the neighbors know that the property is on the market, because way too often, the folks that are going to introduce a brand new buyer is going to be a neighbor. Because you can go knock on the door and you can say, is there anybody that you love? Here's your chance to pick your neighbor. Who do you know that might want to live in this amazing community? Here's some information on the home. And by the way, we're holding it open this weekend. And by the way, would you be interested in finding out how much your home is worth? So this is an opportunity for you to turn that into a prospecting appointment. You know, yeah. Are you doing this now? And look, I'm going to tell you this right now. And I love the fact that we have that mantra that we say, empty the box, empty the box. I think all too often the agent gets the box because it's like, well, I'm not paying for it. I might as well get the box, but they don't empty it. They don't put the pieces in circulation. Pick your, pick your neighbor. All right. Now, last but not least, the neighborhood report. I think this is an amazing piece. It's a fold over, it's oversized, and this is impressive because not only does it have the photos of the property, it also would go ahead and tell them what is around the area. What if they're new to the area? What if they're from out of town? They're from a different state. Is my home close to this? What restaurants are close by? You know, is there a movie theater? Is there a hospital? How far are we from the airport? And that's what this piece is designed to do. So I kind of like to hold on to these because I get, I think it's 20 that I get. So I just don't want to just hand them out willy-nilly. But this is something that if I have someone that I think is very interested or whatever else, I'll go a step further and say, by the way, listen, I think this would benefit you. You know, and I'll say, look, I don't usually hand this one out, but I got a good feeling about you here. Take a look about this. And then hand that to them. Okay. Now, once again, it's 188 pieces. This is what they're getting. And here's the thing, folks. We have to take advantage of the fact that we really are the only ones doing anything like this. Now, there have been some imitators. There have been some people that are like downright copying it to the point where it's infringement. Maybe someone will come up with something as cool or cooler in the future. But here's what I have found. A lot of my agents have told me this, agents that are newer, even though they've never taken a listing before or never done a listing presentation before, walking in with this sample box empowers them. It gives them that level of confidence that they didn't have. Now, there's been some changes in the system in the old days, like we're only 3 years old as a company, but before we will all receive a sample box free for joining LPT. Well, that ended, I think, the end of last year. When you join LPT, you order a box. I think it's $99, a promo box. It includes one of these. You definitely want to do that. You want to be equipped. You want to have this in your possession. Now, and then what will happen is, and if, let's say, for example, you join LPT and you already have a listing you're bringing over from another company, add that listing into the LPT system and you can order a box for it. It's just amazing all the ways that you can utilize this that a lot of agents really simply haven't even tried. So let's go back. Now I'm talking to the sellers again and say, listen, remember I mentioned that I can't control supply, but I might be able to impact demand. Can you see how the proper implementation of all of these marketing pieces and strategies can potentially increase demand for your property? And you're shaking your head like this. And they go, yeah. So that missing 16%, we stand a really good chance of capturing some of that because we're implementing this unique marketing plan, right? Yes. So what is the best outcome that we can have? Well, by tapping into that missing 16%, we might be able to create a multiple offer situation for you, which means you're in a good place. When you have more than one buyer bidding on your property, it's usually a very, very good thing. So again, guarantee that it's going to happen. A lot of that depends upon the price that we launch at, but you know what? It can't hurt. that have all these marketing pieces out there, creating that additional exposure for your property. Now, can I go over the other 84%? Well, remember, 4% was the sign, 29% was other agents, and then do the math. The rest is, so in other words, where are the buyers of properties coming from? You know, when they were surveyed, how did you find the property that you bought? 4% said a for sale sign. 29%, my agent found it for me. And then the other 50-something% was they found it on Zillow. They found it on one of the online sites. So that accounted for 84%. The missing 16% are the people that aren't looking, stopped looking, haven't started looking yet, or someone that knows someone that wants to buy. Now we transition back, all right? They love it. They fall in love with the marketing. They're just chomping at the bit, close for the signature, okay? Do you feel that this marketing plan has what it takes to get your home sold? Are you ready to put me to work for you? Okay? Handle any objections that may come up, okay? Any of it come up. And you know what? A lot of you are probably thinking, you haven't even talked about compensation yet. Well, no, I hadn't, because now is when I'm going to talk about it. Okay. Now we know that this has changed. I certainly don't want to cross any lines in acting like somebody's broker. All I am is a team leader. And this is how I have instructed or counseled or trained my agents to discuss the percentage. I say, we charge X% on the list side. Okay, I'm not mentioning a total number because the seller is under zero obligation to pay for the other side. So I don't focus on the other side. I say, this is what I charge to represent you on the list side. And even though that you're not obligated, I do recommend that you do offer X% to the buyer's agent in the form of compensation or concession. Because the reality is that many buyers do not have the discretionary funds to go ahead and take care of down payment, closing costs, and their agent's commission on top of that. So to make your home more marketable, more valuable, to get more likes, more interest in it, I do recommend that you go ahead and offer X amount to the other side. Now, beyond that, that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other class, and this really isn't the time or place to go ahead and talk about all the different ways to do it. I say I defer to your broker. I defer to your team leader, to the trainings that your company has made available. LPT has some amazing trainings in that area. And then after every objection, you close. That's what you do, you close. So now at this point, they should be ready to go. So really, that's it. That's the 17 points that can go ahead and lead to the presentation. I'll open it up to any questions you may have. I want to throw in a quick little commercial, and that is, if you're LPT and you haven't heard that my course, the Certified Distressed Property Expert, the CDPE, has been approved and embraced by corporate, it has. And I am making some exceptional pricing available for my brothers and sisters at LPT. Normally it's a $499 course, it's now only $299. That's online, on demand. And because I know, the struggle was real, I even offer an insane payment plan so that we can help as many people as possible afford to take it. If you sign up for this, and you can go ahead and use either one of these QR codes, or Jeanette can send the information to you, you get started online, on demand immediately. It takes about 6.25 hours to get through it. And then what I'll do is I'll go a step further. The next time I have a Zoom class, which is a live virtual class, anyone that signs up for the online on demand, and when the next Zoom class comes around, we're going to go ahead and give you free access to the Zoom version as well. so that you can be there live virtually, go over the content again, but this time it's me teaching it live virtually, and then you can ask questions. So I think that's a 2-for-1 that a lot of folks can go ahead and do. The military residential, I'm launching in August. This is normally a $325 class. We're going to make very, very special pricing available for LPT agents. I'm just not ready to launch it yet. I'm going to launch in August with a live in-person and a live virtual one. And yes, trust me, LPT, you guys are going to get a screaming price on the military residential specialist class. Any questions at all, comments, or anything on what we covered here, love to hear. Ricardo put here, what would you say to the sellers if they say they wanted to interview other agents? I would go ahead and say, well, yeah, you know, I've heard that. Now, my question is there anything that I did not touch upon? Is there any area that you are remotely concerned that I haven't addressed or I feel I can go ahead and do? And they can go ahead and probably say, no, I think you pretty much have go ahead and covered it. Okay, so then again, why wait? Okay, so now again, some people are, it really depends on your closing style. I've never, ever, ever been the kind that just throws them up against the wall and say, sign here. I want them to be chomping at the bit and wanting to work with me. Okay, and throughout the presentation, you could be saying, so listen, folks, so when you handle an objection, say the following. Now, aside from that, which I believe I've addressed, is there anything else that would keep you from putting me to work for you today so I can get your home sold? Ask them, is there anything else? They'll say no. So apart from that, that was the only concern, and I've addressed it. We're ready to work together. And I want them to then say, well, maybe I should talk to other folks and say, well, why? What do you think that they could do? If it becomes a commission issue, then you need to have your responses for why you charge what you charge. Everything is negotiable, but if you want all of the services that I bring to the table, this is what I charge. Pam asks, how does that compare to MRP? I don't like to say anything negative about the competition. One of the things that I've encountered is, like, for example, a lot of the courses that are offered by the institution, maybe they're written by course writers and not necessarily by practitioners. When push comes to shove, I would never, ever have invested the considerable amount of money that I did to acquire this if I didn't think it was the best. And just like the CDPE, when people ask me, what's the difference between you and the CD and SFR, I go, me, you get me. And I know what I'm worth. It's not just content, it's how the content is delivered. So with all due respect, I would never, ever have acquired a class that I didn't believe was number one in content. And with my delivery style, I can make it the best there is in that category. Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Did this help at all? Again, you're my pilot program. I've never done this before via Zoom. I don't know that I'll ever really do it again because apart from agents that are on my team taking this, there's no value for me, maybe apart from introducing you to the CDP, but I want to help because that's one thing about the LPT community. We're there for each other. So was this beneficial in any way? Yes, no, maybe so. Some folks have asked me in the past, thanks, Charles, that says, well, will you do it live and in person? I go, I did it for a team in another state because I worked out something with the team leader to bring me out and do it. So I'm always willing to talk to team leaders and say, hey, how many people do you think we can get together? How can we go ahead and do this so that it works for both of us? I appreciate the comments, folks. The recording will be ready later on tonight. I'll make sure that tomorrow we go ahead and send this out and make it available for you all. And listen, if you are LPT, and I believe most of you are, you're in a great place. This is the #1 company in real estate. There is nothing to compare to what we are. Please be proud of the fact that you are LPT. Use the tools, use the products, go all in, take the training, engage. Maybe you're not into attracting other agents, you're not into revenue share, you can care less. You just want to sell more real estate. Well, you know what? That's what LPT wants for you too. We just want you to sell more real estate. And maybe this combination of the tools we have with this additional perspective can be that ticket for you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Camelia. God bless all of you guys. Go out there and remember real estate first. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.